The ocean has always been a place that captures people's imagination. It's this huge, endless space that feels both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. We look out at the surface and see calm waves or raging storms. But what lies beneath is something most of us will never really experience. Hidden under that blue expanse are some of the most secretive and powerful machines humanity has ever built. One of the most impressive of them all, the Ohio-class submarine, an underwater giant that's often called the backbone of America's naval deterrence. These submarines are not just another piece of military hardware. They're floating fortresses, stretching almost as long as 2 football fields, and packed with advanced systems designed to carry out one of the most serious missions imaginable. Each one of them has the capability to alter the balance of power in a matter of minutes. And yet, if you're standing on the shore or sailing on the open ocean, you'd probably never even know they were there. That's the beauty and the fear of these subs. Their greatest strength isn't just the firepower they carry, but the fact that they can vanish for months at a time, operating in total silence beneath the waves. To really understand how these submarines work, you also need to look at the people who run them. The crew of an Ohio-class submarine live a life that most of us can barely imagine. For months at a time, they give up sunlight, fresh air, and even a real sense of day and night. They live in cramped corridors, breathing recycled air, surrounded by steel, and running on schedules so tight that every single minute counts. They leave behind families, friends, and normal routines, trading them in for a duty that is as mentally demanding as it is physically exhausting. It's not an easy life, but it's one they accept because of what's at stake. The story of these submarines actually begins back in the Cold War. At that time, the US needed a way to make sure that no matter what happened, it could always respond to a nuclear threat. The Ohio-class program was born out of that necessity. Each sub was designed not only to serve as a weapon, but also as a very clear message to the rest of the world. America had the ability to strike back from anywhere, even if its land bases and surface ships were taken out. That's what deterrence is all about. It's not about firing missiles. It's about making sure nobody ever dares to start the fight in the first place. Over the decades, these submarines have gone through upgrades and modernizations, but their role has stayed the same: to patrol the oceans quietly, unseen, and ready. They've become a cornerstone of the Navy's strategy, and despite being first introduced decades ago, they're still considered among the most effective machines in the U.S. arsenal. But while the engineering of the Ohio-class submarine is mind-blowing, what really makes them fascinating is the human side of the story. Think about it: over 150 sailors living in close quarters for 3 months at a time, running through drills, eating in the same galley, and sleeping in bunks so small they're basically stacked like shelves. Privacy doesn't exist. Personal space is almost non-existent, and yet these crews build a sense of trust and camaraderie that holds the entire mission together. When you step inside one of these submarines, you're not just looking at a military machine, you're stepping into an entirely different world. Everything has a purpose. Every button, every valve, every tiny system is critical. And every sailor knows that their role, no matter how small, can make the difference between success and failure, survival and catastrophe. It's a lifestyle built on precision, discipline, and silence. So what's it really like to live inside the biggest nuclear submarine in the US Navy? To understand that, we need to dive deeper into this world of steel corridors, humming reactors, and sailors who spend their lives training for a mission they hope will never come. Life on an Ohio-class submarine doesn't really compare to anything on land. The moment the hatch seals shut and the boat slips beneath the surface, the outside world basically disappears. There are no windows, no sunlight, no weather to look at. For the crew, time is measured not by the rising or setting of the sun, but by the unchanging rhythm of schedules and routines. It's a world defined by steel corridors, fluorescent lights, and the constant hum of machinery. The submarine itself is like a small floating city, but one that's packed into a steel tube. Space is the ultimate luxury, and there's just never enough of it. Most of the living quarters are made up of narrow passageways and small compartments stacked with equipment. Sailors sleep in what's known as racks, tiny bunks stacked in rows, often with less headroom than you'd find on a commercial airliner seat. A thin curtain is all that separates one person from another, and each sailor has a small locker for personal belongings. That's it. Privacy is basically non-existent. In fact, many sailors even hot bunk, which means 2 or 3 people share the same bed in shifts. When one sailor finishes a watch and gets up, another slides in to take their place. Even though the conditions are cramped, the crew learns to adapt quickly. They joke, they swap stories, and they build friendships in ways that would feel strange anywhere else. When you're stuck together for months at a time, the submarine becomes like a small town. Everyone knows everyone else, and trust becomes the glue that holds the group together. You depend on the person next to you, not just for company, but for survival. That shared responsibility creates bonds that often last long after sailors leave the service. Food plays a huge role in keeping morale up. On the surface, meals might not seem like a big deal, but on a submarine, they become one of the most important parts of the day. The galley, the kitchen, and dining area serves as the heart of the boat. It's where sailors gather, relax, and enjoy a small break from their duties. Submarine cooks have one of the hardest jobs on board, and they're often considered unsung heroes. They have to take the limited storage space and supplies packed into the sub before it leaves port and turn them into meals for over 150 people, 3 times a day, for months. At the start of a patrol, the food can feel almost like home. Fresh fruits, vegetables, milk, even soft bread. But as the weeks drag on, the menu shifts. Fresh food runs out, and meals rely more on frozen, canned, or dehydrated ingredients. Still, submariners often say they eat better than most sailors on surface ships, because good food is critical for keeping spirits up when you're sealed away under thousands of tons of water. A hot meal, even if it's just pasta or meatloaf, can make a world of difference when the days start blending together. The daily routine on board is built around watches. A common schedule is 6 hours on duty, followed by 12 hours off. Though off doesn't mean free time. Those 12 hours are filled with training, drills, maintenance, and cleaning. Every sailor has specific responsibilities, and there's always something that needs attention. Fatigue is common, and sleep is often broken. But discipline is what keeps the crew sharp. After all, one small mistake in an environment this unforgiving could have serious consequences. Despite the pressure, the crew finds ways to make life bearable. In their downtime, sailors watch movies, play cards, read books, or even work out in the tiny exercise space tucked into the submarine. Humor is a survival tool. Jokes and pranks break the monotony and lighten the mood. Celebrations also happen under the sea. Birthdays, holidays, and milestones are observed, sometimes with a special meal or a cake baked in the galley. It's not the same as being home, but those moments matter. What surprises many people is how quickly camaraderie builds in this environment. Living in such close quarters forces sailors to rely on each other, not just for work, but for emotional support. When communication with the outside world is extremely limited, sometimes only delayed emails or carefully screened messages, your shipmates become your family. You share the highs, the lows, the stress, and the laughter. In a strange way, the submarine stops being just a warship and starts feeling like a second home. So while the Ohio-class submarine is designed as a weapon of incredible power, the life inside is built around something very human: routine, friendship, and resilience. For the sailors who serve aboard, the submarine isn't just steel and machinery. It's a place where they learn to live together, shoulder the same burdens, and keep one another going through long months beneath the sea. If you ask anyone who served aboard an Ohio-class submarine what the hardest part is, they probably won't tell you it's the danger of nuclear weapons or the thought of being hunted by another navy. What they'll mention is the monotony, the confinement, and the strange way time seems to blur together when you're sealed under the ocean for weeks or even months. Life aboard one of these vessels is both surprisingly ordinary and incredibly demanding, with routines that keep the crew grounded in a world where the sun never shines. The crew follows what's called an 18-hour day. Instead of the usual 24-hour cycle the rest of us live by, submariners divide their lives into 3 6-hour blocks. One block is spent on watch, another is for personal time, and the last is for sleep. That means you might find yourself waking up at midnight to start your workday, eating lunch at what feels like 4 in the morning, and heading to bed while everyone else is wide awake. After a while, your body loses track of when it's day or night, and you rely on the rhythm of the schedule more than any natural sense of time. Food is one of the few luxuries submariners get, and the Navy takes it seriously. In fact, the cooks on Ohio-class submarines are considered some of the best in the fleet. It's not unusual to hear veterans say that meals are what kept morale afloat. Fresh food runs out after a few weeks, but before that, submariners might enjoy steak, eggs, and even fresh fruit. Once those supplies are gone, it's frozen or canned goods for the remainder of the deployment. Still, the kitchen crew gets creative. Imagine pizza night in the middle of the Pacific, or a holiday turkey dinner prepared hundreds of feet underwater. Sleeping quarters, on the other hand, are far less glamorous. With around 155 crew members crammed into a confined space, privacy is basically non-existent. Most sailors share what's called a berthing area, a room filled with narrow bunks stacked 3 high, each barely large enough to stretch out in. The beds, sometimes jokingly called coffins, have a small curtain for privacy and just enough space for a pillow, blanket, and a couple of personal items. Storage is so limited that every inch of space counts. Some submariners even sleep above torpedoes when space runs short, a reminder that comfort is always second to mission requirements. When they're not working or sleeping, crew members find small ways to pass the time. There are exercise bikes, treadmills, and a few weights to keep people in shape, though space is tight. A few might play cards, watch movies, or read. In recent years, submarines have had limited internet access when surfaced, but for most of a patrol, communication with the outside world is minimal. Imagine being cut off from your family for months, with only occasional short emails or delayed news updates to remind you of life back home. For many, that separation is the toughest part of the job. Yet, despite the challenges, camaraderie builds fast. When you live in such close quarters, you become family, relying on each other not only to do the job, but also to keep spirits high. Birthdays are celebrated, traditions are honored, and jokes circulate constantly. A submarine might be one of the most stressful workplaces in the world, but it's also one where bonds are forged that last a lifetime. Every routine, from eating reheated meals to crawling into a cramped bunk, exists for a reason. The Ohio-class submarines aren't just machines of war, they're floating communities, operating in total isolation. And it's the people, not just the technology, that make them so effective. On the surface, an Ohio-class submarine might not look like much more than a massive, dark hull cutting through the water. But beneath that steel exterior lies a devastating arsenal, carefully hidden and kept under tight control. These vessels are not built for show, they are built for deterrence, for making sure that any enemy who dares to attack the United States understands that the cost will be too high to bear. The most iconic feature of the Ohio-class submarine is its Trident II D5 missile system. Each boat carries up to 24 of these ballistic missiles, though arms control treaties often reduce that number. These missiles are giants, standing over 44 feet tall, weighing nearly 60 tons, and capable of traveling thousands of miles. With multiple independently targetable warheads, a single missile can strike several locations at once, making it one of the most formidable weapons in existence. Launched from beneath the ocean's surface, a Trident missile can break through the water, ignite its boosters, and soar into space before arcing down toward its targets at speeds exceeding 13,000 miles per hour. It's a weapon designed not just to destroy, but to make aggression itself unthinkable. Yet the true strength of the Ohio class isn't only in its firepower, it's in its stealth. Submarines thrive on invisibility, and the Ohio class is engineered to be nearly undetectable. Its nuclear reactor allows it to remain submerged for months, only needing to surface occasionally to resupply food. The hull is coated with special sound-dampening tiles, and its machinery is mounted on shock absorbers to minimize vibrations. Even the propellers are crafted to reduce noise, ensuring that the submarine slips through the water as silently as possible. For adversaries, this means that at any given moment, they have no way of knowing where an Ohio-class submarine might be lurking. This stealth gives the submarine its most important role: deterrence. Unlike aircraft carriers or bombers, which project visible power, the Ohio class hides in the vastness of the ocean, a constant, unseen threat. It ensures that even if America's land-based forces were ever destroyed in a first strike, the submarine fleet could still respond decisively. This principle, often called the second strike capability, forms the backbone of nuclear stability. The knowledge that these silent giants are always on patrol keeps the balance of power in check. But these submarines aren't limited to nuclear weapons. Starting in the early 2000s, 4 of the Ohio-class boats were converted into guided missile submarines, SSGNs. Instead of carrying Trident ballistic missiles, they now hold up to 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles. These are precision weapons that can strike targets hundreds of miles inland with pinpoint accuracy. In conflicts such as those in the Middle East, these converted submarines became powerful tools for conventional warfare, capable of launching massive strikes while remaining hidden beneath the sea. The ability to switch between massive nuclear deterrence and precise conventional attacks highlights the versatility of the class. Whether serving as the ultimate insurance policy against global war or as a covert strike platform in regional conflicts, the Ohio class adapts to the needs of modern warfare. And all of it is built on the foundation of stealth, silence, and endurance. In many ways, the Ohio class submarine represents the paradox of modern military power. Its existence is a reminder of humanity's ability to engineer machines of almost unimaginable destruction, yet its very purpose is to prevent war rather than start it. The crew members who serve aboard know that their mission is not to fire those weapons, but to ensure that no one ever dares to make them necessary. For most of us, it's almost impossible to imagine what a patrol on an Ohio-class submarine actually looks like. These missions aren't flashy, and they rarely make headlines. In fact, their very success lies in their invisibility. Each patrol can last around 70 to 90 days, with the submarine slipping away from port, diving beneath the waves, and vanishing into the ocean's vastness. For those months, the crew becomes a world unto itself, cut off from family, daylight, and nearly all contact with the outside world. The mission, though, is clear and unchanging: deterrence. The submarine's job isn't to launch its missiles, but to be ready always, at every second. That readiness means that the men and women aboard are constantly training, drilling, and monitoring the ship's systems. Every piece of equipment must be in perfect working order, because there is no backup once you're thousands of feet under the sea. The crew knows that their vigilance is what keeps the balance of peace intact, even if no one outside ever sees it. To maintain this readiness, the U.S. Navy uses a dual crew system for the Ohio-class submarines. Each vessel has a blue crew and a gold crew, which rotate shifts at sea. While one crew is on patrol, the other is on shore training, resting, and preparing for the next mission. This system allows the submarines to stay deployed for most of the year, maximizing their deterrent presence while avoiding crew burnout. It's a rhythm of service that keeps both the submarine and its sailors sharp and ready. But these submarines don't just patrol for the sake of deterrence, they also gather intelligence. With advanced sonar, communications equipment, and the ability to stay hidden for months, they are valuable tools for monitoring global activity. They can listen to movements of foreign navies, observe missile tests, and collect data that helps shape U.S. strategy. This role is rarely discussed publicly, but it underscores how much more these vessels do than just carry weapons. The global impact of the Ohio-class submarines is subtle yet profound. To allies, their presence is a reassurance, a quiet guarantee that America's commitment to defense isn't just a promise. It's backed by real, enduring power. To adversaries, they are a constant reminder that any attack would be answered, no matter what. The very existence of these patrols stabilizes regions and prevents escalation, even when tensions rise on the world stage. On occasion, the submarines also serve as symbols in times of crisis. The U.S. Navy has at times deliberately surfaced an Ohio-class submarine in strategic locations, sending a clear message of deterrence. When one of these normally invisible giants suddenly appears in a contested region, it's not an accident, it's a signal, a way of showing both friends and foes that the U.S. has unmatched capabilities beneath the waves. These rare surfacings are moments of theater, designed to influence geopolitics without firing a shot. Still, for the crew members inside, the experience remains personal and human. They may know that they are playing a role in shaping global events, but their daily reality is one of routine, discipline, and sacrifice. They wake up, eat, stand watch, and train, all while surrounded by nothing but steel and water. Weeks blend into months, and home feels impossibly far away. Yet, in that isolation, they carry the weight of global security on their shoulders. The Ohio-class submarine is not just a weapon, it is a living mission, carried forward by the dedication of those who serve within it. Every patrol is a reminder that true power often works in silence, unseen but deeply felt. These missions, hidden from view, shape the balance of peace across the world. When we look at the Ohio-class submarines, it's easy to see them as just machines, giant tubes of steel carrying weapons too terrible to ever use. But their story is really one of people, of strategy, and of time. For more than 4 decades, these vessels have quietly carried out one of the most important missions in military history, preventing nuclear war. They haven't fired a single missile in combat, and yet their presence has shaped every major conflict, crisis, and negotiation since the day they first went to sea. That is their paradox. They are most powerful when they remain silent. The legacy of the Ohio class lies not only in their engineering, but also in the stability they've provided, by ensuring that the United States always has a second strike capability, meaning it can respond even if attacked first. These submarines have helped prevent adversaries from making reckless moves. It is a legacy of restraint, a weapon that protects peace by reminding the world of the cost of war. For all their destructive capacity, the Ohio class has been one of the greatest tools of deterrence ever built. But time moves forward, and even giants must eventually give way to successors. The Ohio-class fleet, first launched in the early 1980s, is reaching the end of its service life. To prepare for the decades ahead, the U.S. Navy is building the next generation, the Columbia-class submarines. These new vessels will be larger, stealthier, and equipped with cutting-edge technology to extend America's undersea deterrent well into the 21st century. The Columbia-class will replace the Ohio fleet one by one, beginning in the early 2030s. Yet, even as the future takes shape, the Ohio class will be remembered as a defining chapter in naval history. They were more than submarines, they were guardians, silent watchers of the deep. Their crews lived lives of sacrifice and discipline, sealed away from the world for months at a time, so that nations could avoid catastrophe. Every patrol they completed was a reminder that peace is not just an accident, but something preserved through vigilance and strength. For those who served aboard them, the Ohio class will always be remembered as both home and duty. For the world, they remain one of the strongest symbols of deterrence ever conceived. And for history, they stand as a testament to what humanity can build when it fears destruction but chooses to guard peace. So the next time you hear about submarines quietly patrolling the oceans, remember that beneath those silent waves lies a force that has already shaped our world in ways most people will never see. The Ohio-class submarines are not simply machines of war, they are the unseen balance keepers of our age, ensuring that conflict stays a shadow and that the future remains, at least for now, in peace.